Namaste. Happy spring. Welcome back to Labyrinth Butterfly. Um, how is everybody doing? Really, truly happy to have been prompted to tune back into my channel. Truth be told, I have been a little bit avoiding the readings this full moon. I did not post any. I'm sure if you follow, you're aware of that. I didn't do a full moon reading for the divine masculine, feminine energies. This full moon that just passed, the spring equinox, the energy was really super intense, and I had a lot going on personally. So I, chose not to really go against that flow that was going on for me and the things that were coming up for me. But I am tuning in tonight, basically prompted by the universal, the divine flow and the energy that I received from a client slash feminine friend. And she posed a question to me in a voicemail, and basically I think it's a brilliant topic. It's super poignant, and it also resonates with my journey at this time. So I have extra added insight to share. And so I kind of listened to her message, and I received what I needed to receive from what she was saying, and then it disappeared. So I didn't even really have I wanted to take notes on it and everything. So I just went back into my mind and I sat down with it and I wrote down some things that she had said, and I want to address those the best I can, because really what happened was I just sort of opened up to a channel and I got a lot of feedback. So I'm going to share that with you all today, or tonight, or whenever you're listening to this, in terms of, some pre-spring, well, more post, we are springing, we're here, we've sprung, okay, so we're into the spring flow, but this is some post equinox full moon energy, whatever you may have been riding this wave. And of course, we're all on our separate journeys, so if this doesn't resonate with you, it's not where you're at, it's not the wave of energy that you're flowing on right now, and that's totally cool. But just take what you need and leave the rest for somebody else. If it's not in tune with your journey at this time, it's not harmonizing with you, then the message isn't for you. So what came up was the feeling of holding back your love from your twin, and how that feels bad. This was the commentary, and that the realization was that there's a holding back of love when you're not feeling like self-love, or when you're stressed or imbalanced in some way. So that feeling of not being able to be in a place of gifting love, of giving love, right? Mixed with, because this is kind of a dual thing, and I might have to actually cover this in a totally different video, because she brought up some issues around feeling the intensity of being in an unconventional relationship and the judgment that comes from others in terms of, family, parents, depending on your age. I mean, not even really. I mean, all things considered, people that are just other than this in terms of their perspective spiritual awakening, awareness of self, of love, of unconditional love versus conditional love and karmic love, and all of these things, how that feels kind of stifling, because there's a need for people who think that way, in that old paradigm way, for there to be like, you're either with that person or you're not with that person, and there really shouldn't be any in between. But being on the journey and being in tune with this energy, it's like there's a knowing, there's this feeling that all things that are happening are needing to happen. So there's an ebb and flow of the union, which is what she was saying. She felt that there was an ebb and flow of the union, of the intimacy of the union, of the separation, of that being like in tune and in harmony, and others not really necessarily understanding that. Okay, so that being a challenge at this time. And then, going back to the holding back of the love from your twin, like then when you're in a space where you're in union or you are sharing space, not really feeling sure of how to hold space in the physical, without grasping for that togetherness or that, physical union, that joining of, Kundalini energy, that in a way the feminines are really processing that right now, in terms of that need, So what was coming through is like, as soon as I kind of wrote down all of those notes on things that she was saying and her questions around this, the divine masculine energy kind of started to pour into this like recognition of like the divine masculines may be in a place right now where they're holding that more readily, like they're more capable of holding space, in terms of physical space, and they're doing this in order to give the feminine the space to rise in her own light and come into her full power. So, I feel like this is not, this isn't like a lack of love. This isn't a lack of sensing that the feminines are grasping, or sensing that they're, going through these changes. Like the masculine is aware that the feminine energy is going through these shifts and these changes as she's continuing to rise up, okay? So, yet the masculine knows and senses where to step in, right? Where to step in and when to step in to support his feminine, whether that be, you being in union, separation, whether you're talking, whether you're not, whether it's just like strictly a telepathic relationship at this point. There's such a infinite connection. Like these synapses like are constantly kind of like going off energetically, and we're always kind of bouncing off. And even if there's walls being put up, or shields being put up in order to kind of like hold space during really difficult times between the feminine and the masculines, right? It's like there's still that support. The universe will always support the balance of life. It's like the universe is always trying to kind of balance the imbalances. So if the feminine is becoming imbalanced or needy, or the emotions are really heavy or dense or whatever, he's going to feel that, and vice versa, right? And I use he loosely, like we're just talking about energy here. We're not talking about gender. So please be like mindful of that in my talks. It's just easier for me to flow through the he, she, they, them comes up, but we all are kind of moving towards the they and them, right? Because that's like the divine center of self, where we have this equal balance of masculine and feminine energies. So it's kind of like the ultimate goal. However, we may still, recognize ourselves more as a divine feminine or a divine masculine, but that again doesn't have anything to do with your gender or your sexuality or anything like this, okay? So, okay, so how is this important for the masculines? That they're able to kind of hold this space right now, or not jump in bed with their feminine, or not partner with them in terms of projects, or it's like they feel that the feminines are in need of a little bit more preparation or work or dedication, that they have to keep focusing on themselves, because this is really important. Like if the feminine, falls back into that role of looking outside of herself, or putting others first, or feeling like the weight of the world or the weight of her mission is so dense and so heavy on her shoulders, that it's like she needs to not look at that and like, okay, let me just look at him and look at what he's doing, and how can I help him? How can I just focus outside of myself so I don't have to go within? Because this shit is hard, right? This is getting heavy. This is getting real. I'm really having to step into my power in such a way that it's hard for me, right? This is kind of how the feminine becomes more dysfunctional, when it starts to get hard. But recognize those little moments, those little hints from the universe, the signs, the messages that are coming through, because they're there all the time. Like they're there everywhere you look. If you're really, really paying attention and you're really looking, they're on every, I don't even want to pinpoint it, like you just open and you be aware and you be conscious about these messages coming in for you. I'll get messages that come through when I'm feeling like, something that happens for me a lot, because I'm musical, right? This is part of my gifts, is I'm a very musical being. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, I'm a poet, I'm a writer. I'm tuned into frequencies in that way. And my devices, they will turn themselves on. I can't even count how many times this has happened. And my twin is also musical and a musician, and his energy comes through, like when I have something that's going on or whatever, or it'll just boom, then it's there, and all of a sudden my device is playing playing one of his songs or whatever. Like this happens. And it's truly just one way that the universe reminds me, or that the masculine energy reminds me, that I am supported. So how is this role important for the masculines? As the masculines continue to rise, they're having to balance out their intuition, and also retreat and relax. It's like a relaxing of the muscles of trying to save their queen. The energy around the masculine archetype trying to save the princess or whatever, is so ingrained in us, in our society, in our culture, in our upbringings, in our gender roles. I mean, so this is something that the masculine energy needs, actually, because it's giving him an opportunity to tune into his intuition, to listen, to feel, to be sensitive, to step back, to let the feminine have more of a lead, right? Because he trusts her. He trusts that she can do all of these things. And so it's going to trigger in him his dysfunctional need to, rush in and grab her because she's falling or she's freaking out or she's having this moment. But the masculines are really like coming into that power of like stepping back a slight bit and holding out, right? And holding out. And that's not a lack of love. That's not a lack of love, because his energy, the masculine energy, is always there. Literally always there to catch her. He's always there to catch her, right? But he's giving her this space to grow up and out into her role. Like up and out, right? So right now, during this time, we are springing into a new season, and we just went through a full moon, and like the energy wave, I don't even know how to express how dense and overwhelming it was. I had one day, the day I think after the equinox, I'm trying to remember, I don't even know. It's just kind of been like this weird blur of emotions, right? Like just all this stuff rising up. I mean, I literally started my day crying in tears, making some very emotional messages and like releasing things, and doing this work with my soul family, and just like purging so many things, and just continuing to just like cry the whole day. And my energy was so low, and everybody around me was feeling this way too, like just super, super heavy the energy was. But what was rising, and what is rising for many feminines, I mean, not just this particular beautiful goddess who contacted me tonight, but also, other sisters that I'm working with, all that's surfacing for the feminines right now is this all her counterpart, I almost said codependent shadow stuff, codependent shadows, so that we could see truly our relationship patterns. And those patterns have a lot to do with blaming the masculines, right? Blaming the masculines for not showing up and saving us, because that's the Disney model, people. Like that's what we were force fed, from before we were even released from our mother's wombs. That is ingrained in our DNA. I've done past life regression work where I've had ancestors, come up from a line of thousands lined up behind me, generations and generations and generations back of feminine energy coming forth and, expressing their codependency to me. That lineage of like being a part of our ancestral memory and our DNA has been passed. So we blame what is not perfect on this dysfunctional disorder that we, like so many of us, have been modeled into. That we're breaking these patterns. We're breaking these we're breaking these habits. But, breaking things is difficult. Addictions are difficult. Being addicted to one another, all of these things. So this blaming for the masculine not showing up, not saving her, not participating, and seemingly holding back from participating as well, when really what's happening is he is striving to give her space that she desperately needs to arrive at her center, right? Like to literally arrive at her center over and over and over again. Because how do we break a habit and how do we make a habit? You make a habit by doing something over and over and over and over again. So this isn't just something like you read in a book or you hear on a video or some kind of guide tells you once that this is what you should be doing and okay, go and do it. Boom, done. Perfect. You're a perfect specimen, like all of a sudden. Like, no, that's not how it's going to happen. You're going to have to practice. So that's why, I speak about finding your soul family and, resonating with them and practicing with them, because all of this is divine union. Divine union is not just with a twin flame lover. Okay, divine union is with yourself, with your higher source, with your inner child. That self-partnering is so extraordinarily necessary for there to be any reflective union energy with a twin soul counterpart, okay? Whatever that means. Like, let's not even go into that definition in this video. But this time, like now, like where we are in and what is happening on a higher level, is that the feminine is learning to do without. The feminine is learning to do without in order to prepare and to get truly clear on her mission and her path. And many of us are on our paths, and many of us are on mission, and many of us have books and books and books of notes on who we are and what we want to do and how we want to make the world a better place and start our businesses and become these strong independents and make all these waves of change. But again, we have to keep coming back to that center. We have to keep remembering when we start to slip or it starts to get too heavy that we can express ourselves to our, soul family and our sisters and our brothers and, all of these things. But the most important person not to necessarily cling on to, right, is that divine counterpart, because that person, because they're so intimately connected to us, it's very easy to cross that line. It's very easy to place blame, to place anger, misplaced emotions go directly to the closest person in your psyche, in your immediate space, the person that you feel should understand. Okay, should, again, one of those words, right? Expectation is based on words like this. But we need to remember that space and separation is always a gift. So if your divine masculine or your divine feminine is pulling their energy back, or consciously, verbally saying, I think, things are moving too quickly, or I need to pull my energy back a little bit, or I need to focus on where I'm at and you need to focus on where you're at, and we need to trust that everything's going to come into harmony and union and it's all going to be good, but I need you to do you right now and I need me to do me right now. Okay? Like that's real. And it's not a lack of love, it's a gift, because the honesty is where the gifting of that unconditional love lies. That honesty, authenticity is what we need to be in. That's the new love. That's the new earth, right? So the more we continue to look within, the deeper our clarity becomes. And that is going to define how we become more equal, more balanced. We start thinking about words like co-creators, collaborators, conscious lovers. The other night I was sitting and I was writing down these words because, I'm working on a project right now and it is musical, and, I've been having a lot of feelings around how the creation of it goes. And so things have been coming up like co-producers, and all these words started to come out with this like the CO and and I was like, there's something behind that. There's some magic in these words, right? Like of co-visionary, colleague even has it, collective, counterpart, counselor, right? Contemplators, like these words, even the word commission, right? Co-mission, right? Supporting one another. So finding value in the equality of what it truly means to be a co-creator. What does that mean? What does that mean in our relationships? What does it mean in our self-unions? What does it mean in our self-love practices? So, we need to continue to gift love. We need to continue to express ourselves from a place of grace. We need to ask for what we need. And we need to also equally accept what our counterparts are teaching us ultimately. Like what are they teaching us by not necessarily always giving in, or not necessarily always doing what we want them to do, when we're coming from a place of imbalance, when we're coming from a place of stress, anxiety, need. That's not when you should actually extend yourself. That's the responsible energy of the masculine, is knowing when to pull back. So when we begin to go into this dysfunctional patterning, feminine or the divine masculine role, feminine or, well, I wouldn't even call it like divinity at that point, because if you're dysfunctional, you're not in your divine space, right? You're maybe like diving into the shadow side, which is also divine. I will not, deny that. Okay, we have to have the light and the shadow in order to be fully integrated. But as long as our counterpart, our soul family members, our soulmates, however you want to define the people in your life that are, key players, right? Key energetic players. As long as those people are holding themselves in a light where they're in their center and in their power, trust that that is going to help you remain clear and conscious, and in finding your own firm determination, and remembering like where you're supposed to be. So it may sometimes cause rifts, and it may sometimes cause you to retreat and to come into a separation or a moment of solitude. And that's okay. It may even cause you to have, an entire day of tears, of releasing old things, of, going back into your journals, or getting like back in touch with your projects, or, something like this. But the light can never truly leave you. And I so say that from experience, from having had experiences where I could no longer sense my own light. I could no longer feel it. I felt like I was just in this void, and that was returned because I chose to seek it. That spark is never fully out, in body or not in body. Your soul spark, your star seed, it never goes out. So we need to remember that the seed of life is all we can ever be. That spark is our responsibility. It's our responsibility to ourselves, to our future selves, to all the generations that are coming, to our planet of souls that inhabit this earth, And so, in closing, I just want to remind myself and remind all of you beloveds who are listening and watching and taking these messages to heart on your journey, that they may help and heal and, bring more clarity and understanding and peace. I pray that this butterfly medicine, this transformational medicine, I relate to the butterfly. I am butterfly medicine. So as I see it, we come here to practice transformation. We come here to practice ascension. We come here to evolve, just as the seasons are constantly changing. It's a cycle after a cycle after a cycle of life and death, and it never stops. Okay? So the butterfly medicine is like the butterfly effect. And the more we work on ourselves, and the more we transform over and over and over again, we're activating each other in the process. On this twin flame journey, on our spiritual journey, on our path, you can take this as a twin flame lesson. You can take this as a, spiritual ascension energy lesson, however you are resonating. If it's resonating, take it for whatever it's worth to you. Okay? But if you feel this is a beautiful measure of energy work, if you feel after watching this uplifted, renewed, a sense of vitality, creativity, motivation, peace, joy, you're becoming activated. And the more we activate one another, the higher our consciousness can go, so that we are constantly evolving. So this is the butterfly medicine. As you seek to transform self, as you go within over and over and over again into your chrysalis state, where you gestate alone, right? You are then able to stretch out and reach out and break out into your own light of day, where you have all this beauty and you have all this, this colorful energy to spread all over the place, to go and pollinate other beings and other, life forms and animals and plants and instruments and music and, everything that there is, right? So as we do our work, we activate one another. So just remember that. Stay as centered and as focused as you can. And, when it comes to these relationships and the unconventional nature of them, it's difficult because there is less support, seemingly, in the world, right? But be of the world, but be in the world, but not of the world, right? So be mindful that, not everyone has to understand. Not everyone even has to know. You don't have to speak your, deep inner truth to everyone that crosses your path. Stay with those that resonate with you. Be clear with your soul family. Know who they are and know their worth and express your love and gratitude to them. Practice together, heal together, grow together, spread light together, do projects together, be in harmony, be in synergy, and, keep reaching out. Like, thank you, sister, for reaching out, because you reaching out to me tonight activated me and helped me get over a hump of not doing my soul work here on this channel for everyone else, not reactivating into this spring. And I do, take Mercury retrograde into account so much on my journey. When it happens, it really does affect. But we're moving into, and we are in Aries season now, and I have an Aries moon, so I am extremely emotional right now, and there's a lot of things are coming up for me in terms of walking my own journey. So that's all I think I have to say. I'm really grateful, and I'm here for everybody. If you have questions, please send them. Please comment in the comments below. I love to have feedback, and I love to, be able to do videos that are helpful for others. If these things resonate, if you have specific questions on your path and you want me to address them like this, I am so willing to do that. And also, of course, I do offer private readings and, coaching and support. And, I'm very reasonable in terms of helping others. And I'm always willing to do sliding scale if that's what you really need and you're, seeking support. So please reach out to me. The information will be down below. You can share this, like this, love this. Send me a kiss on the wind, whatever works, right? Just stay tuned in and stay in your space of love, and always practice forgiveness when you feel bad, or this shame comes up and you don't feel like you're giving enough love, or you're not, just know that, that person, your counterpart, their job is to love themselves first, and you have to allow them to grow in their self-love. And the only way we really, really, truly affect one another in a deep, deep, deep way, I believe, is to live by example. So if you're able to love yourself more in those times when you feel like let down, or you feel like you're not capable of giving enough, allow yourself to step back and just say, I don't have it to give right now. I need to recharge. I need to refuel. There's something that I'm missing because I'm trying to give more than I have to give, or I'm trying to fix more than I can spare to fix, So we can give as long as it's being received. If there are blocks in that other person's energy where they can't receive that light, then you have to learn to be okay with it. You have to learn to let go of it, right? You have to learn to accept it and do your best not to judge it, because that's difficult and that's conditional. We want to try to be the models of moving away from being conditional with our love, of saying, I really want you to do this, or I really think that you should be doing this, or I could really see you doing this, right? And sending that light out to the other person, and then having them be like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm not going to do that. There has to be a place of acceptance for that, and then of course there's always, depending on who this person is to you, maybe this is a very karmic relationship, or maybe this is a, dysfunctional relationship, or something's coming up for you where you're like, I've been here before, and I don't want to step back into that past where I'm, really going into some like codependent habitual trap, that's not going to bring me into my highest union of self. Then you have to recognize those things and you have to let go. This is how the cycles come back for us to really practice and learn and develop and grow. So that being said, walk in beauty and walk in light, and I do pray that this message is well received and it helps everybody who needs to hear it, and it finds everybody who needs to hear it. So stay tuned, and I will try to get back on my regular schedule of new moon and full moon, divine masculine, divine feminine energy readings, and whatever else comes up in between. Okay? Namaste, blessings on your sacred journey, and thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to give it away. Jai Ma. Hare Bom Shiva.